Jova, there are issues around disclosure. Now, this is where I want you to, from a practitioner's perspective, as a woman candidate, what are your sources? Ideally, I don't think they're the same. What are your sources of campaign financing? And how easy is it for a woman politician to access campaign financing?
Thank you very much. For me, I want to thank my colleagues and their contributions. But the reason Uganda has not passed a law, the reason why those who have the law have not implemented is because of corruption. If the provisions of the law were to be implemented equally across board, if we say, for example, you are not going to spend more than 200 million Uganda shillings, and it is 200 million for every individual who enters the campaign, people would not fear, would not be bothered about where they are getting the money. People would not be bothered about the implementation. What matters is it fair? But if you are going to say in the law that it is 200 million, someone spends 205 and you put them in jail, and someone spends 500 million and nothing is done, that's where the problem is. So, and if it is 200 million and we are all giving the sources of this money, if, for example, I've been a member of parliament for one term, how would I fail to account for 200 million, for example? But people fear this because they know it is going to be used against them. Plus people can concoct all sorts of reasons. Someone can say she has spent 500 million, she got it from here and there, when it was not true. So it is the issue of corruption and issue of integrity. If we passed the laws and we were committed to implementing them as they are, then there would be no problem. So the law has not been put in place because people fear being victimized. And I think a colleague has mentioned that. Kamateka source of financing or women sources of financing. For example, me, before I joined politics, I was a civil servant. I was working. I had a bit of savings. And also I had networks. I had friends. Someone can give you some 2 million shillings, 3 million. And actually, a colleague, I think from Kenya, said someone, a student was elected into politics. Usually for the first term, people are elected almost on merit. They don't spend a lot. But second term, people will want you to go naked. They want to strip you of everything. So this is not uncommon that for the first term, people will let you go in, but following that, then you'll have to even go into debt so as to make it. So I think disclosing sources of money, for example, women, they can be sponsored by their husband. They can be sponsored by family members. I know we fear that financing may come from donors and all that, but if it is regulated campaign financing and the money to be put in is reasonable, you don't even need money from donors. People now are tempted to get money from donors because they know that they can spend any amount, they can spend anyhow, and so as to buy their way through. And women, of course, women have several ways of income, although they spend too much, but they trade, they get involved in trade. But women really have expenditure is too much on the women. That's why we would cry that there should be campaign financing that is implemented fairly, implemented and enforced.
Sure. You stood on participating in the NRM primaries. I think in 2015, 16, and also in 2021.
Yes.
The one for 2021, for some of us to observe in some parts of Uganda, we saw, I think that's when NRM did try out the system of lining up behind the preferred candidate, if I'm not mistaken. But we saw scenes of who are lined up in primaries behind their country, being brave openly. And so I want to find out from you your experience participating in the party primaries, because some have argued that they are very expensive.
You have noted correctly. I mean, this was a campaign all over the country. So whatever happened almost everywhere. People are bribed in the night. People are bribed during the actual exercise of lining up. Yes, we agreed to line up, but this lining up should not continue. I think we abuse the rights of Ugandans by exposing them to this lining up. A person's choice is supposed to be secret. It is secret ballot. But we know, because someone gave you money in the night, if they see you standing behind somebody else, then you are in trouble. So I think that's why now we want to keep this lining up, but it is an abuse, and I hope that Ugandans will fight against it. So what can we say? Even the ballot papers that go in a box, they will be changed. Even the results, as the counting, they will be changed. So the issue of corruption. That's why I'm saying that unless governments go in and punish perpetrators, and unless we, all of us, have this desire to create corrupt-free societies, otherwise, putting laws in place is useless. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, that's you. In your opinion, you think the laws are not enough. Henry, let's talk about the political parties. Rwanda has does finance political parties participate in the session and on equal basis. Uganda has applied different methods, and recently we've been seeing some exchanges in media between political parties having shared public funding, which was released, I think, about last week or the other week. But as an expert in this area, how do political parties in Uganda finance their elections in real time? Because there's what we know and there's what we don't know. But how do they raise their resources and finance the political parties and their activities in real time?
Thank you very much, Felix. Of course, when it comes to financing political parties anywhere in the world, there are standard avenues through which political parties can do so. The first one is through member contributions. So the idea is that you're a political party, the people that subscribe to be members of your party make contributions. This could be annual subscription and so on. So that's one avenue. The second avenue is that political parties can engage in some form of business. You can have a political party that either has a building that generates money or a business that generates money. This can be a source of income. Number three, political parties can sell and market party paraphernalia. You know, the badges, the capes, the bandanas, and they can raise money from this. Number four, political parties can go out and seek for grants and donations from whoever. This could be donors locally and internationally, but this area has to be well regulated. And number five, political parties can also get money from the state, from the national budget. So in the case of Uganda, political parties have been kind of their wings to fundraise have been clipped by the Political Parties and Organizations Act that puts a ceiling at how much money you can raise from a single source. But I think also there's a ceiling that makes it difficult for you to get money from external sources. So they have tended now to depend more on the money that comes from the national budget, which is public financing of political parties. The challenge here is that public financing to political parties in Uganda only goes to those parties that have representation in parliament. So the rest of the political parties are grassing. You have on the list 26 political parties registered, but only less than 7 are active and can be able to field the candidates, even at village level. And you see, but beyond that, I think these political parties also act in a way and manner that they have also leadership problems because they are not well managed. And if you're not well managed as an institution, then how are you going to be able to make sure that you're able to fundraise and look for money and survive? So because they're not well managed, they're not able to explore most of the avenues they're supposed to explore to raise money. For example, starting with the party in power to the opposition, many of them will give out party membership cards for free. But who does that? This is supposed to be an avenue for raising money. So you get to see that the party paraphernalia, you know, I've seen it during campaigns that people are actually bribed to put on a yellow t-shirt. But this t-shirt should be for sale. So I think there's been some kind of distortion of order in the order of how political parties must be financed that we need to get back on the drawing board on. But overall, political parties are very poorly funded. It's only those parties that are, have representation in parliament that get funding, but also the formula that is applied in sharing the money from public coffers is one that favors the ruling party because the formula is that of numerical strength in parliament. And of course, with the tyranny of numbers of the party in power, the money is, the party in power takes the lion's share, and the party in power is the NRM party. And therefore, still the parties in opposition get just, leftover crumbs, bread crumbs, and this is not helping. So the situation of political parties the financing situation of political parties in Uganda is really in a sorry state. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Henry. In the next 15 minutes, we'll be opening it up for your comments, contributions. I'll be reading some of the questions coming from different panelists and also allowing, taking some hands. So in about 15 minutes, I'll be opening it up for your participation. But before we do that, let me come to Israel. There's something interesting here in Tanzania, which I read in your act, that speaks to, I think it's the Election Expenses Act, which speaks to, it has directs the minister to prescribe maximum amount of election expenses depending on the size, puts caps, ceilings, depending on the size of the constituency, categories of the candidate, population of the people, and the communication infrastructure, among others. In the regulations, this section on the ceiling then becomes absent. What explains this? Because is it an oversight? Is it deliberate to have this kind of discrepancy between the regulations and the law itself?
Thank you very much, Felix. It was deliberate. As I said earlier, they made the regulation. They didn't put those details, but they immediately made another regulation called the Election Expenses Maximum Fund Order. And that is, it is detailed. If you go to the website, it is called Registrar of Political Parties in Tanzania. You will see that the order, it is there. It's called Election Expenses Maximum Fund Order. And I tell you, it is there. The president, the member of parliament, the councillor, special seats, and you will be surprised. While one of the candidates is allowed to spend even 8 million shillings, a special seat candidate is only allowed to spend 11 million. If you are in rural as a ward councillor, as compared to the ward councillor contesting in an urban center, there is also a ceiling that has been set. And when I was looking at it, I found the urban contestant in the ward level is 80 million, 8.0, and in rural is 6 million. But if you go to special seats councillors at that very low area, local area, only 4 million if you are in urban area, in rural, only 3.5. And then you could imagine, then parties are given an opportunity to spend more, and the president is given an opportunity to spend more. So the ceiling has been there, and you must fill the form before starting your campaigns. Tell the state, where did this money come from? And you are being restricted to receive money even from Uganda or Kenya. You are not allowed to get money for campaign purposes from outside the country. It must be, but also reading from the Political Parties Act, which is also supervised by the registered political parties, the parties must finance themselves. Like what Henry has said, only those who have representatives in decision-making bodies, the member of parliament, if you have more in parliament, you have more money. As of now, I think the Chama cha Mapinduzi are getting the best out of that fund, allowed to get into political parties' subsidies or subvention, because the opposition parties are very few in the House. And also, but parties are allowed to fundraise online, do fundraising events. I've seen some of them doing a lot, and they're getting some money online. That's what I could be able to say at the moment. I think I will have some concluding remarks after the floor. Thank you.
Okay. If you can allow me, Felix, to ask Israel, does the president of Tanzania, when he's a candidate, does he also have to declare the sources of his campaign funds?
Yes, all candidates, including the president, must declare.
So the late Magufuli, where did he get his money?
What?
The late Magufuli, where did he get his money from? The money for campaigns?
The law says all information registered at the respective places, because the president files the information at the national level, and the member of parliament at the constituency or district level, and the councillor at the ward level. And this information remains secret unless they are used during the court, if anything is for investigation or somebody is defending something. So we even don't know where the late Honorable Magufuli got the money, but if you want to contest and look for the information, you must file a case and get the information.
Okay, I think there are issues to do with a public disclosure of that information because it's kept secret. Let me quickly, as I run down my time, I have about 5 minutes to open it up for the participants online to raise their questions and participate. Let me quickly go to Kenya. Kennedy, we saw some, I think it was in the news, Raila Odinga, one of the candidates, promising a stipend of Kenya shillings 6,000, which is $52 a month per poor household if elected president. We've also seen that happen back in Uganda, where our head of state dishes out money during campaigns here and there. So help us understand what is explaining this behavior, and where will he get the money anyway? Can you unmute?
Sorry, you cannot look at it in two ways. Firstly, this is just part of social security. Already in Kenya, we have some money for elderly people. Because of the poverty level, sometimes there are families that are suffering. They need basic necessities. So I think after 70, you can get some stipend from the government. Sometimes people with disability get this kind of funding. So it's a trend, which I think happens even in the developed countries, in like Europe, this like the welfare state. So you can look at it positively, but on the negative, you can also look at it in terms of the fact that in Kenya, for instance, we don't have ideology. parties are ad hoc. I mean, you are aware that since 2002, even the sitting president has to change parties. If he goes to the next term, he goes with the so parties are not stable. So policy debates are not there. So it's voter bribery, and voter bribery can be the crude one of giving handouts, but it can also be structured. Of you give something because you have no policy, you should be seen to be offering something to the voters, and in that context, you can explain the 6,000. The other candidate, the vice president, for instance, is saying you set aside 100 billion for the youth, for business, and that's what everybody does. Actually, in Kenya, especially in 2013 elections, or let's say in the 2017 elections, you cannot differentiate, for instance, between a governor and a senator when they are campaigning. All of them is, I will do this to you, I will do this to you. Yet a governor is in charge of a particular region, but the senator is supposed to be up there doing policy and legislation, but they don't distinguish because people want direct injection. You get the point. And it's that spirit that you will see a lot of that coming in. I'll do this to you, I'll do this for you.
Okay, it's not so different from Uganda, where you have politicians promising so much.